Welcome to Palm Wine Central Podcast, where real stories, real people, and real wisdom collide over good vibes and deep conversations. I am one of your hosts, Uncle AK, and my other host, beautiful Therese. How you doing? How you feeling? How you living?
I'm good. Tired, but I know the work we just started, but I feel like it's Friday.
They gave you Monday off, and you're still complaining?
That was a bad idea.
Oh man. Today's episode is all about fighting back when life throws haymakers at you. Our guest, Wisdom Morris, is the voice behind Wisdom Wednesday, a platform built on pain, purpose, and power. From his time as a top recruiter at Tech Systems to building wise living solutions during the financial freefall, Wisdom transformed hardship into a movement. We'll explore faith, mindsets, failure, and intentional crafting of your personal brand. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, by the way, Wisdom. How you doing? How you living, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. Thanks to Condi or AK, and Therese for having me. This is my first time being on a podcast. I'm excited to share my story and get into some conversations that can help other people.
Man, who's Wisdom, man? Let's get that out the way. You know, who's Wisdom? Tell the people who Wisdom Morris is. I know you like to say Wisdom Morris. So tell the people who Wisdom Morris is, why you like to say your first and last name, like, you know, somebody got a gun to your head or something, you know, like all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Wisdom Morris. I'm 25 right now, but I actually be 26 next Monday. So I'm heading into a next year of life, but I am a full-time entrepreneur. I'll oversee a portfolio of companies within Wisely. Wisely is a umbrella company that oversees and interacts and impacts others within the industries of real estate, professional development, and also fashion. I like to say that I also go by Wiz, but I also really like to address myself by Wisdom Morris because a lot of people say, hey, Wisdom's a big name to live up to, but it's really the last name that I'm really going hard for because it's the last name that'll continue and go on longer before me as next generations to come. And where I'm from, it means a lot to be a Morris, which it's like a big thing of pride, you know, just to be able to have a name like Wisdom, but also just be able to represent my family is why I like to address myself by Wisdom Morris.
Yeah, man. You know, the first time, let me go rogue here a little bit, right? I know this is something I never told you before. You know, the first time, you know, I met you, you know, it was like, hey, my name is Wisdom. You know, I looked at you, I was like, that makes sense. You know, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, I was talking about like your forehead. I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, you got a lot of wisdom, you know, like, you look at the size of that thing. But anyways, let's get back to the episode. A lot of people say entrepreneur. What is your definition of an entrepreneur?
I would say I think that I say that a lot too. I think that like some people are like entrepreneur, like, oh, I own a business, but like, it's one thing when I address myself, I said full-time entrepreneur. So like, it's one thing to have a side business, but to be a full-time entrepreneur is like someone that has passion or a vision for something that they just have a greater vision for. And to be a full-time entrepreneur, you're going to go through ups and downs, and you got to have tough skin, you know, because the income isn't the same as someone that is 9 to 5. And now I come from a traditional 9 to 5 background, but to be a full-time entrepreneur is just basically to mean to you can swim with the sharks. I've been a full-time entrepreneur now a little over a year, and I haven't started out. I mean, I'm not where I am right now from where I started. You know, I started and plummeted and fell on my face, but the drive and consistency is what's needed to be a full-time entrepreneur for the long run.
The way I met you was through a recruiting company, you know, Tech Systems. Let's talk about your journey, you know, through Tech Systems. Because I later, you know, like called you and you said, oh man, I left Tech Systems to do my own thing. I was like, you know, at 25 going to 26, right? Could you please first of all tell us like what attracted you into recruiting, and why did you leave recruiting?
So honestly, tech systems, I think it's a little bit of God how things work out, because I was applying for jobs and I always knew I wanted to be in sales. Like I had a background and an interest in being in sales and interacting with people. I knew I've always been wanted to be in the people business, and candidly, tech systems was just really the first place that did offer me a job. And I didn't have any other offers on the table, so I just kind of said yes. But I would say the big takeaway that I learned from being at Tech Systems is I learned my first time how to be an entrepreneur. So at Tech Systems, I was an IT recruiter. I had clients, two sets of clients. So I had a Condi, for example, would be my client on more of the consultant side of someone who's working on behalf of Tech Systems. I had to make sure a Condi was getting his paycheck on time. It was a couple times a Condi asked me about his his time off and his hourly pay. So those are things that I would have to take care of. And then I also had a client on the client that was company side that I was looking that a Condi will work for. And essentially I would have consultants working for me or for Tech Systems. And I had to kind of manage the business. There was like a portfolio of businesses and clients. So that's where I got my first taste of entrepreneurship, because I could plan my schedule how I wanted it. Of course, I had to abide by what the client was, what the tech systems rules, but that gave me my first taste of entrepreneurship. And necessarily why I left Tech Systems was because I felt like I hit my ceiling of where I could go forward. So it's crazy to say I had everything I wanted, but I'm like, man, I'm only 25. So I come from a lower income family household, single dad household. And by the time I was 23, 24, I was making more money than my dad. I just bought a house, I had the girl, I had everything. But I'm like, man, I feel like I could do more than this. There's more than this. I feel like at this job is going to be the same thing every year. Like, okay, I hit all my sales targets. They take us on a trip. I get stock, but it's like, what else than this? So during that period where I felt like I hit my ceiling, I was really adamant to the company of like, I feel like I'm an executive leader. I know that doesn't happen tomorrow, but what opportunities and doors could be open for me to start turning towards that trajectory? So they had me speak on behalf of them at seminars. I had basically met everyone in the company. I had meetings with the president, senior VPs, and then it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm still sitting in this chair. You guys are asking more for me, but you're not trying to pay the paycheck. And I just felt like I was coming to work and I wasn't fulfilled. Like I would just come and I would sit in front of my desk and like just really just filling in hours. And I wasn't challenged anymore. Like I hit my ceiling. I did everything I could do in the company. Like I did everything in the 3 years that I was there. And it just got to a point where it was like, okay, it's time for more.
Mm-hmm. And then upon, going to achieve more, did you get into any financial, burdens? Like, did you run out of money, man, trying to pursue your entrepreneurial goals and stuff? Like, speak about that.
Yeah.
Like getting, a regular paycheck on a, 2-week basis to, man, where would I, how would I pay my rent or, eat, things like that? What's your story?
Yeah, so it was actually a big adjustment because I went from staying at home from my dad's house. I saved money until I could buy a house. So at that point, basically from leaving college, I was used to always having money. And how from working at Tech Systems, where you're a contractor, we were paid weekly. So I was always expecting money to come to me. And I didn't really let go of that habit when I first started working for myself. So I did pay up. I did pay up when I left my job. I did pay up 3 months of my mortgage, and I had some deals lined up that were supposed to be payouts for me. So which I learned, and I don't do this now. I spent money before the eggs hatched, And that put me in a pretty bad situation where I found out I was kind of living on credit because the income as you're compensated as an entrepreneur is a lot different than you're getting a consistent check. And I had to adjust to that, which I've adjusted to it well now. Understand that, okay, I have to make sure I pay ahead for things and I'm conservative with the money and only buy what my needs are. But at that time, I still was more flashy. I still didn't have a budget. And that put me in a tough spot where I was penny pinching. But it taught me a lot of things in the long run.
Now I'm going to be messy a little bit. There's this debate going online, 905 or entrepreneurship. I know you've tasted both worlds.
Yeah.
If you had an option, which one would you choose?
Entrepreneurship for like all the way. Like even when I was broke, like I'm like, I can't go back to work. I just can't do it. It would have been the easiest thing for me to do. You know, I do have a college degree. I do have pretty good work experience, great references, but it wasn't something I was really willing to do. I've grown to enjoy my freedom over my time. Like I remember when I left my job, I used all my PTO, and then I was like, man, like the thought of having to ask someone, can I take a vacation? You know, in entrepreneurship, maybe a time I don't have the money to go on vacation, but I can every day is Monday, or every day can be a Monday or a Friday. You know what I'm saying? And my perception of time is a lot different now. Like I used to look forward to holidays and cause that would be time off. But now I'm like, oh man, Memorial Day is coming up, you know? So my perception of time is a lot different. And I can be more productive in a short amount of time. Like I can look at my day and be like, all right, I'm going to time block this for 2 hours to get this done. Versus if I was in an office, I would have to sit there for 8 hours trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my time. So I would say entrepreneurship just for more autonomy, creativity, and my ability to not have a ceiling.
Now there's something you mentioned earlier about you basically had it all, but you felt like, this was the height of it all. You couldn't see more. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that feel that way in certain spaces, and they feel stuck. What's one actionable item, step that you can give to help them, just gain better return from life and to develop just valuable skills that would go beyond, say, a traditional workplace?
Yeah, I would say collaboration as much as you can do, which I've learned a lot now. And I'm in the space of that now where I've exited survival mode and the part of the business where I'm like, okay, the business is successful. Now I feel like, okay, where is it going to go now? And I have vision for a lot of things, but you get to a time where you understand it's not how you do things, it's like who should be doing these things. So if you are in a space where you feel like you can't grow anymore, or in a space where you may be stagnant, who are those people or community that you can build to collaborate with to essentially give yourself another arm to all the resources that they have. You know, they say we all know each other by 6 degrees, right? I talked with Akandi about how he's had people on the podcast that actually got jobs from knowing other people on the podcast. So if you're in a space where you feel like you can't grow right now or can't reach more, I always say collaboration or building a sense of community. Because those weak ties or the people that may not be so strong in your circle could have opportunities or have doors that you could open for them or they could open for you.
So I guess I'll ask this. So when you're going into a traditional role, you have to bump up your resume, fix it up, something that I think you're familiar with being a former recruiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the equivalent of that for entrepreneurs? Because I don't think you go around waving a resume. So what would be an equivalent for?
high and valuable skills. So skills are you would see as entrepreneurs, like they invest a lot in their education. Like I want to keep continually learning. Like I want to keep adding skills and things that I can master, because you understand in entrepreneurship you pay for how much value you can produce, and to really, and like through the mastery and through being the top in that specific niche or specific skill set. So the equivalent to building your resume as an entrepreneur would be gaining skills. So, for example, like right now at my church, I serve as a ministry intern, and I do all the announcements, live announcements, and video announcements. And I saw there was an opportunity for me to be able to do that. I said, hey, I see myself being on camera a lot. Can I take over the video announcements, because I need the reps to be able to master the skill? And same with being up and speaking in front of people. Like that's something that I have to do if I want to be a pretty good speaker. So that's actually called deliberate practice, where you practice a specific skill over and over until you master it. And it's through mastery where you get top paid. And for your example, like if you guys have been doing this podcast forever, so ever long, you can see how you got better and better over time. And now the day one, you will definitely get paid less than the day 90 or day whatever you are right now.
Are there any other examples that you can give for that deliberate practice as just how it has shown up for you in being an entrepreneur?
Deliberate practice. I would say definitely cold calling, and being on cold calling is a skill I had to definitely master, which I actually got that skill from tech systems, having a cold call and find consultants, but I've now heightened it through, because I do a lot more volume than I did at tech systems, because now I'm not just trying to meet numbers, I'm trying to actually fill my bank account. So I've got to a point where I could be on the phone and I can hear how someone, like, how they answer a question or their match their tonality. So those are things that I've picked up and tips. I'm like, okay, trying out what works and then figuring out what works and then only working on that thing, only doing that thing. Another thing that I've got really good at is the appointment with the seller. I put my money on it. I don't think there's anyone or any company in our market that could build a better relationship with the seller in a short amount of time than we can. And I've done it multiple times, just learning, okay, what type of questions I ask the seller, how do I respond, if they are cold to me in the beginning of the walkthrough, how can I make this warm, and just doing those type of things. So I've got really good at that through deliberate practice and more experience.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because you using the example of the podcast, I never really seen a correlation, right? Because my part of my job involves me doing a lot of public speaking. And now when you mention it, it clicked. I'm like, I am getting better with public speaking. So that I didn't even think that was like something like you mentioned, that it was a concept. Right. Deliberate practice. But I don't get as flustered when I talk to crowds or when I'm delivering training. And so I was like just connecting the dots, like, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Definitely, wherever, especially if that's someone out there that may be listening to this right now, if you are in a 9-to-5 job, definitely look at the skills that you can gain from that job to transfer into whatever you want to do outside, and just see how you can get better and better at that. So even if you don't want to leave your job to go full time for another job, that can help you get paid higher at another company.
You mentioned something about your faith earlier, right? Let's talk a little bit about your faith. What is it like for you when you hear people say, you're walking in your faith? Like, what does that mean to you? Walking in faith.
I would say walking in faith is a journey. I would say when I think about my faith journey didn't come until I went through that financial storm that I went through. It was a time where I have a family that loves me, but I also mentioned earlier about how much pride I put into Morris' name. I had a lot of insecurity about sharing with them anything I had going on. And it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't know where to turn. And why it was a time where I wasn't in church for a while because I felt like um, I was the one doing all the work versus God providing those blessings for me. So that faith journey came, and I saw how God brought calmness to my storm and like worked a lot on me. And once I understood how God is so process oriented and how He moves and does things for you for your good, all that whole storm that made me a more humble person. That made me more to be able to manage the money that I have. So walking in faith is a journey because there's going to be times where you're upset with God. There's going to be times where you feel like God isn't listening to your prayers at all. So for me, it's been amazing to kind of see how much growth God has put in my life through me bringing Him in to my life. You know, I have to let Him in. Sometimes we feel like God isn't showing up for us when we're the one that's shoving Him away, right? So it's a journey. I would say I've grown to love to do for God right now, where I'm doing a lot at my church, where I oversee the program for all new congregates. I'm very involved with the community, and I'm actually in a place where I'm more stepping into leadership and thinking about leadership as in ministry, where I didn't used to think like that. So He's been changing my mindset in ways and giving me a vision of things that I didn't see before.
During your financial crisis, right? What was your biggest challenge, like during that period in time, and how did faith, propel you out of that?
I would say one of the biggest challenges, like one of my biggest core values is flexibility. Like I like being able to flexibility and giving. So those are two of my biggest values. So I like being able to move around. I like being able to do whatever I want to do. Not to say I got $1 million, but I like being able to, hey, if I want to go have a burger, I can go have a burger. And then also I like to give. Like I like if like someone's hanging out with me, or I like to be able to give money or do nice things for people. So it took the financial scarcity took those two things away from me. And I went through a tough time where I wasn't getting my hair cut, where I wasn't, I was really in a dark place. Like I remember like when I first left my job, it was in June of last year. So it went until December of 2024 when I made my first big money as an entrepreneur, first check really as an entrepreneur. I remember when I first got that check, I looked up, I'm like, dang, it's Christmas lights. Like it's like Christmas. Like I didn't like my perception of time was just felt like I was so lost in this cloud. And my faith had brought me closer to light. They had brought me closer to a community of church, which they actually helped me financially. Like, so that faith gave me hope and kept me going. Cause there was times where I'm like, I've never been suicidal, but it was just the thought would stay longer in my head. Like you'll have like, sometimes you can't control the thoughts that come in your head, but the thought was like, oh man, this is coming up in my head, staying in my head longer than usual. So that was a time where I was in a really dark place, and I was also learning myself and learning just like how I can be happy with less. I had to learn how I could be happy where I am. I read this book called The Power of Now, which was like a kind of a faith-based book where you can, it's about how you are bigger than all your problems, and it's more about just getting closer to God.
Yep.
And that helped me a lot with just transitioning out of that mindset, that fixed mindset, that scarcity mindset, to more have a mind of abundance. Mm-hmm. And know that I've got everything I need.
Very powerful book. How much was the check?
How much was my check? So so my first check as an entrepreneur, actually it was $6,000, but my partner loaned me like 1,400, and so I had to pay him back. So it was like 4,800 something. And then I was behind several months on my mortgage, so I really didn't get to see any of the money, but it gave me that, ooh, like that, that's all I needed. Where like, all right, I can get up, I can pay down on some credit cards. So that's what I would do. I would like, okay, I'm gonna pay down on some credit cards, pay a month of mortgage just to keep my house from going up for auction. Because if you let your house go 3 months, your house goes up for auction. I would pay a month or two, pay some money on my credit card, so then I had credit money that I could live off on until I got my next check, and then I can invest in marketing too. So that was my first check as an entrepreneur. It was $6,000.
Mm-hmm. Man, at 25, most of us were still in college or probably still thinking of leaving our parents' home. And at 25, what are you talking about? Societal thoughts and, things like that. But most importantly, during that moment, how did you build resilience, right? How did you, if you had to advise somebody who is going through the same thing right now, what would you tell them?
Man, I say every battle is different. Everyone's like ability to withstand tough times. I would say what I learned most is just that journey in faith and understanding that God, I got to see things of how God was God was showing up for me, even if it wasn't what I wanted. Like, it was a point where I'm like, man, I only made $6,000, but I still have bills and stuff. But I'm like, man, when did I ever make $6,000 a month? So like, I had to see how God was like giving me what I needed. Like, a lot of times we don't feel like we have what we need, because God is providing what we need, and He provides us with what we can manage. At that time, I didn't know how to manage the money that I get now. So like, I had to understand. So if you're going through something tough right now, it's understanding, just listening. Try to listen, quiet down and listen and see what God could be trying to teach you. Because a lot of things I was going through were lessons. God wanted me to learn from those. And now I'm being tested, So now, as if I ever come through this again, it's a test, because I've experienced it before. And I had learned that God was teaching me that lesson. Okay, when you get money, you can't spend money before you get it. An example is that deal that before we went live, I was talking about how things were changing at the closing table, and the seller almost backed out, and we had to keep giving him more and more money from our cut of the spread. There was at one point where that check was going to be $10,000 that I was supposed to get. So I was already, and my birthday's coming up next week. I was planning to, which I'm still doing, our business retreat. I was already kind of spending the money, like, ooh, okay, I'm going to do this, do that. And what I've learned from that lesson of spending money before eggs hatch was, okay, I'm not going to spend until I get paid from this. So that was what I learned from that. So I just had to listen and see how God is still showing up when we don't feel like He is.
There's something that AK said to you at the beginning, before you introduced yourself. And he said, you always, every time you say your name, you say both your first, you say Wisdom Morris.
Yes.
And then you say, well, the first name carries weight, but your last name is where the weight is really. Mm-hmm. And then I just thought to myself, that sounds like this man's selling himself as a brand.
Yeah.
Wisdom Morris. But then I don't know, is that something that you relate to by chance? Do you see yourself as a brand? Is that why you always say both your names at the same time?
Yeah, I'm heavily on brand. Like, I actually never leave the house without wearing one of my brands. Yeah, I'm very heavy on brand. And like, I think of, I have like, so Wisely is what I have vision for. That's what I'm working towards, to be able to, where I'm only overseeing at Wisely. But right now I'm an entrepreneur in Wise Living Solutions, entrepreneur in Wise Wednesday, entrepreneur in the Wise collection, which is our fashion arm of Wisely. So I'm really big on brand of creating a streamlined, really persona of the company. So I care a lot about brand. I think brand is everything. Yeah, I think that's my answer to your question. I really love personal branding.
Does it contribute to the long-term success, or how do you see the benefits of that in relating to your like entrepreneurial endeavors?
When I think about brand, I think about the stories that people will tell. Like, when I think about when AK had his experience working with me as a recruiter, that was him experiencing my brand as someone, as, you know, as him being my client. You know, the stories that he would tell to say, oh, I worked with this recruiter. AK has referred people to me. So that brand, creating and establishing that brand, it also creates the stories that people tell. Like when I think about my brand, I want to create a story brand. I want to create a brand that people tell stories about. And I've moved away from when I first started my business, I had my face over everything, but I've now moved away from that, so that it's more about the name. It's more about the brand versus Wisdom Morris. There's going to come a time where no one knows that Wisdom Morris owns Wise Living Solutions. Yeah, the name Wise Living Solutions kind of goes with wisdom, but there's going to come a time where there's other people working at Wise Living Solutions. And how can I create opportunities for other people to be great under this brand? You know, one thing that if I did go back to work, I would want to go work at Apple, Amazon, or Facebook, you know, one of the big companies, because of the brand. You know, when I think at Wisely, I'm like, man, I feel like we're going to be as big as Nike. I feel like we're going to be as big as Amazon. That's kind of what I have vision for, because I think about the brand and the stories that we tell about those companies.
There was something, one of your business endeavors you mentioned, Wise Wednesdays. I believe that's a blog that you write, correct?
It's a blog, YouTube video, YouTube channel that eventually is going to evolve to Wise Minds. But Wise Wednesday was created while I was going through all that I was going through. It gave me an opportunity for me to speak about what I was going through. I didn't really talk to anyone. I didn't talk to my parents. But it gave me an opportunity for me to, I felt comfortable putting it out on this platform. Like, okay, I'm behind on my mortgage. So I would tell personal stories of what I was going through in hopes that it really uplifted other people. But yeah, that's what Wise Wednesday is.
So I think that it's your most recent blog post where I read you think you were just giving how you transitioned from corporate into entrepreneur. And you've touched a lot on that story, but there's something that I want us to talk about in there. I think you mentioned there that when you left, you had deals lined up, but your partner cut you out, something like that.
Yeah. So when I first was, Wise Living Solutions was first was a side hustle. It was where I had an uncle who he had a house and that I actually grew up in, and he was wanting to sell it. And I had been doing a lot of research about what I'm doing now. I said, hey, I've met these people at this real estate meetup. I think they can help me. I think I can sell these houses for you. So these first few deals, they went great. And then we continued on. And then when I left my job, I sat down with these former business partners and said, hey, I'm ready to go all in. This is what the plan. Like, I'm a very intentional person about who I'm doing business with. I don't want to do business with a bunch of people. Like, if we can come together, you do what you're good at, I do what I'm good at, and we'll just be good together. And that was supposed to be the same relationship. But what I learned in that is that people can change. And once things are going all good, that always doesn't mean they're going to be all good all the time. So there were deals where my role at that time was I was still new, and they were supposed to be these gurus or have done it for a while. So I would go get the property under contract, and they would it would be under their contract, and I was supposed to get paid once everything was done, for my contribution. And it just got to a point where They stopped communicating with me. I invested like my last $300 on some marketing. And at that time, the number on the marketing was tied to a system that I was using their system. So when they cut me off, I was really working really hard during this time because I'm like, I'm trying to get a deal. I'm trying to get a deal. So I had like 2,000 to 3,000 door hangers that I put out on each door. So that's like, I was getting like 30,000 steps a day in the summer just from passing out door hangers from door to door. And no one could reach me on the number because it went to their system. So that was like a really tough time because I actually cried about it. Like I felt really bad. Man, I feel like I looked up to you. I feel like I never did anything wrong. Like you knew what I was going through financially, and they just cut me off. We still haven't talked to this day since then. But now I'm making a lot more money and more money than them too. But yeah, it was a tough time. It was really eye opening, but I learned a lot from the experience.
But like they say, look at God.
Look at God.
But then how from that experience, how are you navigating forward dealing with in terms of like with relationships with associates and who you do business with? Do you have certain criteria? Do you have certain standards? What's your process like?
Yeah, actually with the business partners that I'm working with now, I had such a guard up that like I'm like, it's gotta be this way or it's no way, you know? So like it was a similar type of relationship where I've always been good at working with the sellers. So it was a similar relationship where I brought the buyer but I made sure like, hey, I'm only marketing off my phone number. Like I'm never gonna put no one else's number. I say it started out as they had me on the system, but at that time I was broke. So when I first joined, I'm like, okay, I'll make all these calls. Like I'll make these calls for you guys. But then once I kind of showed that I had to show what I could do too. I just said, hey, I got to draw a line in the sand. I've got to really protect myself long term. And I've got to make sure that I'm more involved in the deal where people know that they're working with me and you're a partner of mine. So that was something that I had. I made sure that I put guidelines, and once things were going wrong, we communicated. Like we communicate now, and which I think communication is very important, whether that's business relationships, personal relationships, or romantic relationships. Communication is really important. So then when there's a problem, we communicate about it. We talk about it. We may not always agree, but the communication is really key and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Now, I know we've thrown a lot of questions at you, but there's something that I'm picking up that has been consistent throughout all those questions, right? You're very big on how I want people to experience me. You know, even though it's a business, you're big on like how do they experience me? What impression did they leave? Having dealt with me, you know, how do I put my best foot forward? How do you maintain that self-awareness where you're intentional about almost everything that you do business-wise, that you do stand out, like your authentic self? You don't lose that in business and all that.
I would say with me never leaving the house without my brand on, I'll never do anything to jeopardize my brand. So it's kind of similar to when you first work a job, they might have you fill out a social media thing of like, hey, you can't wear our shirt if you're at the bar or doing. So it's the same thing of like, if I've always wear my brand when I come out the house, I'm never going to be arguing with the seller, trying to fight with someone. I'll never do anything to leave that bad impression in their mind. There may be some disagreements. I've had people call me and cuss me out. I'm like, hey, I hope you have a blessed day. So it's like, I never give anyone that opportunity. There's a lot of temptation, because I do have flesh. I am human, right? But I weigh my brand a lot more. For example, there was a deal that I closed earlier last month. And I record all my appointments on video. But we get to the closing table And it was a lot that I had to do to just get this to the table. I only ended up making $100 on this deal. And I did everything I did everything I could to make sure the deal, both parties were happy, both the buyer and the seller. So we get to the closing table and the seller's like, well, how much am I walking away with? I'm like, well, we agreed on 33,000 and we pay the closing costs and you take care of the water bill. She was like, well, I'm not signing any for a dollar less than 30 grand. And it was like 29,000. It was like, basically it was like $300 short. So I'm like, oh my God, I had to do everything I could it was a lot it's a long story of how we got to the closing table. I don't want to go through those details, but it's a lot of work for me only to make $100. So I had to go all the way to the bank. I took out money and I'm like, and I ended up giving her extra money. I was like, here's your time for your wait. And I did all that because I wasn't gonna risk my name over $100. Like, my name is worth more than that. And if I can make you happy and make everyone happy and close the deal versus like someone being able to say, oh, this guy tried to scam me out of my house, or he didn't do what he said he was gonna do. That's how much I care about my brand. I could have been like, hey, I'm walking away from this deal. Like, I did everything I can for you. This is what we agreed on. We agreed on this price. So she was trying to pull like, oh, I don't even know what I was signing. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to stand on business, and I'm going to come through just to make sure this gets done.
Now, I want you to give me your secret sauce, because protecting the brand, protecting your character, being a man of God, running a business, how do you decompress? Because that frustration of doing all that, guys, it has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
It has to. So unless
I'm looking for a wife right now. So whoever watching this, like, Wiz is looking for. I'm looking for a companion. You know, I spent a lot of time just spending time by myself, and it gives me joy to do the things that I do, like serving at church. Like, I bring a lot of joy, but I am in a season where I'm reaching capacity, you know, so I am kind of like, that's why I mentioned, like, I'm in that place of like, okay, who should be doing these things? How can they get done? So I really don't have a place to let all that go right now. I go to the gym pretty frequently, but I am now looking to bring on a life partner, and you know, hopefully offset a lot of those things, like the admin things that I do. Just the little things matter a lot to me, because it's like, if it's a big thing, I'm like, okay, that's a piece of cake. But if it's like, oh man, I gotta hang that up on the wall and make it level, like that like stresses me out. Like, the little things where I have to kind of lower my mind to do something, that it kind of puts a lot of stress on me. So right now, the answer, Therese, I don't have it right now, but
okay. I hear you, and your search is valid, but you know, I pick up on a little undertone there. Now, you say you don't want to do the small things. Now, future wifey might be listening, and she think, oh, he just want me to come and be his little assistant.
No, yeah.
Do all the small things and take care of me while I handle the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Let's just give us a yes or no.
No, it's not true. No. I would say, like, the little things, it's like, I don't ask for much. So it's like, even if it's like, okay, I don't even know what the little things are. Like, just like, I mean, it's not like a frequent thing. Like, you don't have to cook me dinner, make me meals. Like, just like, if it's like something small where you can, like, okay, I'll help you with this. Even if it's like you're helping me with it. And that's me too. Like, I like to provide. Like, I'm more of a provider, but I'm not traditional where it's like, yo, you gotta put something in too. Like, you gotta work. You don't have to add money to anything that's going on, but you gotta have a drive for stuff. You know, you can't just be like, he's just gonna take care of me. You know, I'm gonna take care of you, but you gotta have that drive for yourself too.
When you say drive, what do you mean? Break that down a little bit.
Ambition, I would say, like I admire, like I've always been attracted to like independent women, like women that scare most men, like the one that be like, oh, she hard working. Like I like that because it's like, yo, you meet me, you ain't gotta do all that. You know, you could just do, you could just be, you could still do all those things, but living with me, I take all the big things off, and you just worry about the little things. And I like to clean. You know, I clean. You know, so it's not like I want the woman to just do traditional things. It's just more like the stuff that I feel like, hey, this is too, like, this hurts me to do this. Like, I feel like if we did this together or you did this, it would be a lot better.
So the small things you weren't really talking about, like in terms of like she gonna do the chores or she gonna do the admin work. Okay, that clarifies it. Because for a second there I was like, now your name is Wisdom. What's going on right now? You about lost me there for a second. But I get you. Yeah, you're open to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, small things. Like, things that people see as small, like, are big for me. Like, because it puts a strain on my mind when I have to think about that. So I'm like, okay, if you just do this, I can do the stuff that you like, oh, how do you get that done? That's the stuff I find easy, or like where I like figuring it out. Like it gives me joy. But like hanging stuff on the wall, or like, you know, like the stuff where it's like, oh, that should be easy. Sometimes that's really hard for me. I don't know why. Because I put so much pressure, like, man, I feel like I should just be able to do this. But so, yeah.
When people reach out to you, right? When people reach out to you, your business, what do they expect? What should they expect?
High level quality service. Like you're going to receive, I can make you feel like I'm working with no one else. Like that's what sometimes I have to kind of, hey, I'm busy. Like I'm working with 5 other people. I can make you feel like you're the only person I'm working with because of the level of service and excellence. And that all stems from us caring a lot about our brand, caring a lot about relationships, and leaving value-driven impact. So if someone reaches out to us to sell their house, like they can expect for them to receive high level quality service. They can expect for us to stand on what we say.
Yes, one more thing. He talked about being a man of God, faith, and everything. What is one message that you could give to someone who's watching this who could be, you know, going through it right now?
Someone that's going through it. This too shall pass. We've heard that a lot, you know, like the problems that I had last year aren't the problems that I have now. You know, it's like it all goes away. Like, but sometimes people get stuck in there. Like I encourage people to just let things pass through them. Like I try and let bad energy or negative energy pass through me, and I can notice, like I've got good where I can notice where I start feeling anxiety, or I start feeling like I'm getting angry. I can feel this, and if you start paying more attention to it, you'll start to feel it too. Ooh, I might respond this way, you know, or respond in a way I don't want to. Just letting things pass through you and being more attentive to how you're feeling, and knowing that when you think about, look at it as like, hey, is this something that's going to matter in 10 days? Okay, yeah, it might matter in 10 days. Is this something that's going to matter in 10 weeks? Oh, okay, it might. Is this something that's going to matter in 10 years? So I look at things like that, even how I make decisions. Like, okay, is this a decision that could negatively impact me for 10 days, 10 weeks, or 10 years? And a lot of times, the things that have trouble about won't impact us in 10 years, you know? So that's how you can look at things and get over things a lot quicker if you are going through something.
Through your church, right? One thing that you highlight a lot is community support, right? Especially, you know, during tough times. For some people right now, you might have probably answered this question during the pod, but if you can reiterate it, you know, some people right now who are dealing with, you know, the feeling of isolation, will feel isolated, you know, what's the first step, you recommend for them, in helping them to build, that community support?
I would say that first step is like the first people that come to mind. I think it's always good to have like people that you could talk to, tell things about, like, and that's hard for me. It's still hard for me. Like I do have a deep community at church, but I still have boundaries. I still have that, like, not everybody knows Wiz, not everybody knows me personally. And I think that first step for you is just trying to find those people that you could talk to, like tell things to, even if it's like they may not help you, but sometimes just talking about it, they may know someone that could help you, so it's always good to have those people that you could talk to. And even if it's like you talking to yourself, I talk to myself a lot, but like talking to God too, like just like, oh man, like God, this is what's going on. So if you don't have anyone else, talk to God and just be quiet. Like try and spend time in quiet time. I found that I have God come up through my life a lot when I spend time in quiet. We live in such a noisy world where when's the last time you just spent time in quiet? That's a question for you guys. When's the last time you just was like, man, this is like, I'm just going to be quiet? If you can remember.
Today?
Not too long ago.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys practice that, but there's some people they don't practice that quiet time, and they may have kids, they have a busy schedule, they get up soon as what they do, they get up, they start playing music, they start doing these things. But when you sit in that quiet, your thoughts can move a lot slower. You can think, and for example, like I try not to listen to sometimes I try not to listen to anything in the car when I'm driving. And something just came up, was like, oh, go buy this house. And this is a really good house in Grand Rapids. Like, I've been trying to get a hold of the seller. Sometimes these sellers, like, they get called so many times, they change their numbers and stuff. And God was like, go buy this house today. I went by and she's there. We had a really great conversation. And she was like, man, I was just about to leave. Like, I'm telling you, like, one more minute, I would have been gone. So like just listening, taking time to quiet and just listening to God and your thoughts can help you a lot if you don't have that sense of community right now.
Mm-hmm. Looking beyond, your weekly speeches, what lasting legacy do you hope Wise Wednesday creates for its community?
Yeah, I see Wise Wednesday. I talked about this a little bit, evolving into Wise Minds, where it's more of a professional development, more like coaching, training, development, like the corporate level, personal level. So I think it leaves that lasting impact. When I always think about like my leadership style, I like to lead more by example, and also lead more, how can I grab your mind? How can I plant stuff in your mind that make you take action, make you do the things versus like me having to be there. So I think that legacy is like ones that touches minds to create action, have people feel inspired to do things, feel inspired to create, feel inspired to get through tough times. So I hope Wise Wednesday evolves into something that just motivates a lot of people to do things that they didn't think they could.
Is there anything we haven't touched that you would like for people to know, be it Wise Wednesday or anything personal, church-wise, that you'd like to show to people?
Yeah,
and plug in, all your social handles and your site and how people can connect with you and all that good stuff to us. While you're at it.
Yeah, you can connect with me. You can look me up on Instagram, wisdom_Wisdom Morris. On there, on my personal profile page, I've got links to all of all the families, all the companies in the Wisely family, from Wise Living Solutions, Wise Wednesday, and also the Wise Collection. Really excited to be in the works and vision planning to get spin up the Wise Collection, where it'll be the only place you can dress wisely for every occasion. So Really excited to get that spinning up. Fashion is something that is a big part of me, big part of what I do. So hopefully I see why the Wise Collection being a place where, everyone can have access to it. I would love for it to be a household name one day. So for those watching, would love to connect with you, love to be able to inspire you in any way, collaborate with you in any way. And I hope that if you have a dream, you follow it.
You mentioned, I think, having to tell, your girl that, I've not been the best guy, ever. Could you take us through that moment in time and, what was the issue and what outcomes of it?
Man, y'all do your research, man. So I'm now going a year and a half being single, and that was my first relationship ever. We were together for 2.5 years, and at the time, I didn't know how to communicate my feelings. I didn't know how to be there for her feelings, and ultimately, that kind of ended to us growing apart. But I learned a lot from that relationship through just reflection. So I spent a lot. So the same time that I was going through financial trouble, I was really dealing with my emotions with being single too. So I really felt really alone at that time. That's what really brought me to want to come to church and have a sense of community. But even the way we broke up, it was more of at that time, I didn't know how to communicate. So like we had talked on the phone about it, and then we kind of broke up over the phone, and then we set a time for us to meet in person. Like, hey, we're gonna, kind of say our goodbyes and whatever. And I was there for just like 30 minutes. Like I listened to her, and then I'm like, okay, well, I think I should go. Like, I think this is, what should happen. I eventually seen her after that, like, because we still had we had a really good relationship. Like, it was like either good or it was bad, but it was only bad because I would drag things on emotionally. I wouldn't open up. So, I just really killed her love, honestly. Like I drained her of her love. I wasn't loving her in her love language. I understood now, okay, I need to, giving is my love language, but it's more from a man that a woman requires. I need to be there emotionally. I need to be able to provide structure, leadership, safety, and things. So I learned all those things from that relationship. But yeah, it was really tough. I put a lot of I was really hard on myself because I hurt her, and I just didn't know who I was at the time. I was so lost. It's like the prodigal son. Like I wasn't in church, but I think that really made me who I am. I'm more humble. I'm more like communicative, more expressive. It made me a better speaker because I was more in tune with my emotions and what's going on. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was a tough time, but I think I've learned a lot from it, and now that's going to make me a better partner in the next relationship.
Oh, and I forgot to ask. Sorry, T. What is it that you're looking for in your next relationship? Well, I mean, in the woman, of course. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Physique, like bosoms, yeah, all that good stuff.
I ain't gonna get into that. You're gonna get me in trouble. But I would say, I would say I'm intentionally looking to date a Black woman. Like I was raised by a single father, and he had bad relationships with women, and that I took a lot of that. It took me a long time to open up to my girlfriend because of the relationship he had with my mom and my stepmom after him married. So it actually took me a while to trust women, getting close to me. So, and I actually resented Black women for a while. Like I just I was really went through a phase where I was really only attracted to, white and Latino women, anything but Black women. But now God has shown me that through my ex-girlfriend, she was Latina and half white, but leaned heavily more Latina, that, okay, I want to be around more someone that is similar to me. We have a similar background. We can have deeper conversations. So I'm intentionally looking to date a Black woman, to bring other Black babies into the world, Black millionaire babies, because, you know, have a baby by me, girl. No, I'm just and then conversation is very important to me, being able to, you know, conversate, articulate things, and have for them to have some element of entrepreneurship in them. They don't have to be an entrepreneur right now, but the goal would be for them to date me, or we date each other and we work together to where she could be a full-time entrepreneur at that point too. Someone that just really understands the grind. That's why I've always been attracted to independent women, because they can get it on their own. But once we come together, we could do more. That's pretty much it. And God, you know, have some relationship with God too.
Sex before or after marriage?
So that's something I've been thinking a lot about, because it's I've been practicing celibacy for this time period of me being single, and I've had sex before, and it's like now, and I'm in a season where, you know, I'm making more money, and like it's just a lot of distractions, you know, where it's like, okay, I know I could have sex if I wanted to, absolutely wanted to, and it's like, but okay, what happened in my last relationship was that we never really dated each other. It was like, okay, we were attracted to each other, we had sex, and then like next thing I knew, we were holding hands and we were in a relationship. So I think that's just how college relationships worked at that time. But I'm really intentional.
No, that was your relationship, bro. That was the college. That was yours.
Yeah, I mean, immature relationships, I should say. I should better phrase it. But I'm really intentional now about like, okay, we do have sex before marriage. It wasn't the formation of our relationship. We had an opportunity for us to really build a connection with each other. Like, I'm really intentional about connection. Okay, am I connected? And like, how I know someone's for me, like, I'm not interested in a lot of women. Like, I have lust, you know, I struggle, you know, I say that badly. I have lust and have thoughts about women and things like that. But okay, is it just if my attraction to them is past lust, that's how I know I'm interested in them. Where it's like, okay, I'm interested in what they got going on, interested in their families or whatever they may be doing. So to answer your question, I'm torn between the two. Like, I'm open to have sex before marriage. I'm not going to hold it against nobody, but really intentional about that. Really, us being connected first. So even if it's like a 90-day thing or however long that period is, but I don't want it to be like the foundation of the relationship.
No, thank you. To hear that I don't want to make it sound like I'm minimizing how old you are, but to hear that you're 25, you're only 25 and you had so much, covered so much ground under your birth, that is impressive. That is very impressive.
Being that we've spoken about, you know, Wise Wednesday, we've spoken about, you know, wisdom, who wisdom is, you know, everything about you or not, you know, and how can we transform life's challenges into purposeful growth while protecting our personal integrity and faith?
That's a really good question. Could you rephrase that one more time? How can we
transform life's challenges into purposeful growth while protecting our personal integrity and faith?
I'm thinking like definitely like taking time to evaluate reflection. Like this year for my birthday, every year for my birthday, I spend time in reflection where I just look back on what went wrong, what went better. There's actually a video on the Wise Wednesday YouTube channel called The Reflection, where I just reflect on things that I went through, reflect on what's going good, what went well, went bad. So taking time to reflect, evaluating those situations and those challenges that you are going through in life and seeing how you could do better next time. And also, what lessons did you learn from those things that can impact your present? You know, like reflection is like one of the best things you could do because you can impact your present, impact your future through reflection. So I say taking time to reflect on where you've been through and seeing how connecting the dots, you know, when you understand how God is a God of purpose, a God of He is doing everything for your good. How are these bad things connecting to good things in the future? I've been able to, God's blessed me to be able to see the patterns, where I can be, prophecy is actually one of my spiritual gifts, where I can just see things before they happen. And when I just take time to evaluate and reflect, I'm like, ooh, that bad thing opened this door, that got me here. You know, so now when I'm going through a tough time, I just remember that. I'm like, okay, what door could this open? What is the good thing that this could happen? And then in terms of holding that integrity is like making sure you don't do it again. If it is something that you did wrong, you know, really evaluating those things and how can you do better. And just understanding that you will fail, understand you will fall on your face, understand that you are human and you have flesh and you will make mistakes, but you can always impact tomorrow based off what you learned from yesterday.
Yeah, so, man, appreciate you, Dawg, for stopping by and, sharing your wisdom with us.
Yeah, this was dope, man. Appreciate it.
From boardrooms to rock bottom, Wisdom Morris has shown us that failure isn't final, it's foundational. Wise Wednesday isn't just a platform, it's a battle cry for those fighting life storms with faith, skill, and purpose. If this episode inspired you to build your resume from life experiences or surrender your plans to something greater, share it. Tag us, PWC Cast, Palm West Central Podcast on, all platforms. Wise Wednesday, for wisdom, and join the Wise Wednesday movement. He did share with us, how you can reach him on all platforms, and he'll be in the show notes as well. Please do not hesitate to reach out to Wisdom or us as well. T over there is also becoming a good lifetime coach. You know what I mean? We are prophesizing things on here. So anyways, man, until next time, protect your brand, trust the process, and fight back with everything you've got. I'm one of your hosts, Uncle AK, my beautiful co-host over there, Tutu. T. Tutu. Shout out to Tutu. She couldn't make it to this one. But yeah, Wisdom was our host, and we are Audi. What am I saying today? Wisdom was
I don't understand.
Wisdom was
You know what? Cut the show.
Hey, you know what?
Cut the show. Cut the show.